Hey, g'day, it's Prozo here. I'm not in the workshop today, I'm actually at my desk and I'm still working on this. Now this is an Art Deco inspired Lixie digital clock. I've been working on this now for a couple of months. I've got a playlist if you want to go back and look at all the previous episodes, and it will take you through the development of these units, which are the Lixie display units, and also the woodworking involved in building this case, doing the woodwork finishing, and then some of the decorative elements that I've got on the clock as well. Now I'm at the point where I need to be able to start assembling this, and that basically means getting all of these acrylic panels ready. Now these are laser cut, there's a digit laser etched on each one of these, and they have to be assembled into two plastic frames. Now these are also laser cut, and each one of those digits is slid up through a groove, and come on, let's get the, yeah, there it is. Okay, got that back to front, but it doesn't matter, give you the idea. Alright, so that's going to slide up into that groove there, and then this top frame has to slide down onto that, and that's what keeps everything indexed and in its correct relationship. So in order to get to that point, what I need to do is to take the plastic film off all of these digits, and that's proving to be a bit of a chore really, but it's got to be done, and they are then bagged and ready for assembly. But you have to keep this clean. If there's any dust or fingerprints on these, they show up when it's running. So that's going to be my next job, is to get all of these ready. I've had a bit of practice at this, and the trick is to get the film up without scratching the underlying acrylic. So I'm using a scalpel blade here just to get under that film, and the area where I'm starting that is sort of underneath the frame, so if you do accidentally scratch it, it's not a big deal. What I'm finding is the bigger problem is that this stuff, this film, when you take it off, is got a static charge. So it sticks to your gloves, and it's a bit of a nightmare to get it off. Each one of these takes about, I don't know, 2 minutes. There's 120 to do. So you do the math. And I mean that, you do the math. I hate maths. Alright, so there's one, nice and clean, ready to be bagged up, and you just keep doing that. Alrighty, that's 8 full-size 4 digits. I'll put them aside. You might be wondering why I've got these ones. These are 75% of the original digit sizes, and these are for the seconds. So I'll put these aside, keep them separate, and I'll be assembled into the clock later. So, right, all of these to go. I'm not going to bore you by showing it all. We'll catch up when we're ready to start doing the assembly. Okay, well here's the part I've not been looking forward to at all. I need to assemble all 60 of these clear digit panels into this pair of frames. Now these are quite flimsy. They're just made from 3mm thick acrylic, and they need to be slid in from underneath, and this top frame just basically sits on top. There's really nothing that stops this all falling apart until you get it into the clock case. So I thought about using some sort of fastener to temporarily clamp these things together at the correct spacing until I can get it into the frame. Now I couldn't find a screw long enough to fit right through because it's got to be the same length as the height of that clear panel. I thought about using a threaded rod. I've actually got one here. This is made from brazing rod, which has been nickel plated. It has a 7BA thread at both ends, just simply because that matched the diameter of the brazing rod, and there's a matching 7BA thread in that single hole there in this bridge piece. And the top frame just sits on top of that, but I need some sort of fastener at this end to keep all of this tight. Now if I'd used a hex nut, that would have stopped this from sliding into the opening in the clock case itself. So in the end I decided to use a nipple. Now I knew that would get your attention, but it's basically just a countersunk nut with a screwdriver slot in the top that allows you to drive that down hard, and that's going to keep these two sections of acrylic sort of clamped together. It's going to be fairly inconspicuous. You're really not going to see it when it's fully assembled into the clock itself, but the nickel plating just makes it look right anyway. So I have to make 4 of these nipples. Yeah, stop smirking. So let's go over to the lathe and have a look at some nipples. Just pop that into an ER16 collet, and inevitably after you finish parting off you always get a little bit of a burr there. Unless you're A-bomb 79, he never gets burrs. But anyway, I've got one of these little deburring tools, and I was going to take the end out of that. There it is, that's better. Okay, now the last thing I do is put a screwdriver slot in that. Now I could set this up in the mill, and I've got a slitting saw specifically for doing this, but at the end of the day, is it worth it? And my answer is no, it's not. Now the trick that I've used is I can line up a hacksaw with the slots in the collet, and that gets you near enough to center. Given that this thing is going to be hidden, no one's ever going to see it except me and you, I can do it this way. So it's got a junior hacksaw here, and I'm just lining up over the top of those slots in the collet, and you just sort of check both sides. That looks good. And that's close enough for me. So there it is. I've got a nipple in my hand, and the next step now is polish this, and I'm going to nickel plate it just because I can. The rest of this threaded rod now is nickel plated already, and there's one on the other end that's already been done. Oh, damn it. Well, nearly at the end of this now, and I've discovered that these cotton gloves are way better than the nitrile gloves. They stick to everything, they hold a static charge. These cotton ones are great. Other thing I've discovered is that 1.5mm thick acrylic is not necessarily 1.5mm thick. And some of these missing digits that you can see here are because the acrylic that I measured was about 1.6 and it's not fitting into those slots. I did have to order some more, and I've been cutting them as I need them to fit into these vacant slots. But that's been really frustrating. I've probably found about half a dozen that just don't fit, and yeah, bit of a nuisance. Okay, I've just got these 3 slots to fill up, and I'll have to recut new digits for those, and then we can start putting on the light masks. I feel a bit like Audrey Hepburn. Yep, just what I need, cat hair. Oh, what joy. This wall dropped out of the end frame here. And I should have kept the rubber band on that. That's going to be a nightmare to get that back in there now. However, I did it before on the other clock. The other end's good. Must need some more choke. Well, there it is, all finished, and I did fix up the sketch. I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's a very faint blue shining up through these digits. That's a function that you can set in the sketch called Lixie Aura. And I ended up putting a small amount of epoxy resin behind the face of the bezel just to hold it back to the clock body itself. But all in all, I'm happy with the way it is at the time. Oh my God, I gotta go, just talk amongst yourselves, will you? But where are my keys?